The gun was heavier than she expected. Lena's hands shook as she stood in that warehouse, surrounded by blood that wasn't hers and bodies that would never move again. The man kneeling before her, the man who'd once whispered he loved her, who'd stolen everything, who'd sold her like property, was begging now. But the stranger behind her, the one who'd put this weapon in her grip, said nothing. He didn't need to. This choice was hers alone. How did a Tuesday night shift turn into this? How did a wrong number text lead to a loaded gun and a choice that would destroy the woman she used to be? Stay with me. Watch how an ER nurse became something else entirely. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in Metro General's ER flickered like they always did around 11 p.m. Lena Carter didn't notice anymore. After 6 years of night shifts, the buzz had become white noise, same as the screams, the blood, the families falling apart in waiting rooms. She stripped off her gloves and tossed them in the biohazard bin. Her scrubs were stained, some combination of coffee, iodine, and what she hoped was just saline. The shift had been brutal. 3 car accidents, 1 stabbing, and a kid who'd swallowed God knows what at a party. Her feet ached, her back screamed, and she still had 4 hours to go. "Lena, you good?" Marcus, one of the EMTs, caught her elbow as she headed toward the break room. "Yeah, just need coffee." "You need a vacation." He grinned, but his eyes held that look everyone gave her lately. Concern, pity, like they could see something she couldn't. She pulled her arm free gently. "I'm fine, Marcus." The break room was empty, thank God. She poured herself burnt coffee from the pot that had probably been sitting there since the morning shift. It tasted like battery acid. She drank it anyway. Her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it. Almost. But something made her look. A notification from her bank. She frowned and opened the app. Then her coffee cup hit the floor. Overdraft notice. Negative $847. That was impossible. She'd checked the account 3 days ago. They had nearly $6,000 saved. $6,000 that she'd been squirreling away for 2 years, working double shifts, skipping meals, because Dylan had promised, he'd promised, they were going to use it for a down payment. A real place. Something that was theirs. Her hands were shaking as she checked the transaction history. Transfer, $6,800. Yesterday. 3:47 p.m. Authorization, Dylan Morrison. The room tilted. She grabbed the counter, her breath coming short and fast like she was the one coding, not the patient. Dylan, her boyfriend of 3 years. The man who'd held her while she cried after bad shifts, who'd said he wanted to build a life with her. She called him. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. She opened her texts and started typing, her fingers moving faster than her thoughts. Anger and betrayal pouring out in a stream of words she'd probably regret but couldn't stop. You took everything. Everything. 3 years? And this is what I am to you? Money? I gave you everything and you stole from me, you piece of shit. We're done. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't ever fucking contact me again. I hope whatever you bought with my money was worth it because you just lost the only person who actually gave a damn about you. She hit send. The message showed as delivered. Her chest heaved. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them back because she was at work and she didn't cry at work. Not for patients, not for herself, not ever. Her phone buzzed. She looked down, expecting Dylan's excuses, his lies. The number wasn't his. Unknown. Strong words for someone I've never met. Her stomach dropped. She looked at the message thread, looked at the number she'd sent that text to. Wrong number. She'd mistyped. 1 digit off. In her rage and shaking hands, she'd sent that entire brutal message to a complete stranger. "I'm so sorry, wrong number." The reply came immediately. Unknown. Is it though? What kind of response was that? She stared at the screen. Yes, it was meant for someone else. Again, I apologize. Unknown. Don't apologize. He sounds like he deserved it. Dylan Morrison, right? Ice flooded her veins. How did this person know Dylan's name? She'd mentioned it in the text, but who is this? Unknown. Someone who knows exactly who Dylan Morrison is and what he owes. Her heart was pounding now, adrenaline dumping into her system the way it did when a patient crashed. I don't understand. Unknown. You will. Check your door. I'm outside. Lena's apartment was 15 minutes from the hospital. She wasn't even home. This person couldn't be at her door. Unless Dylan had given someone her address. She grabbed her bag and ran. She broke every traffic law getting home. Her apartment building looked normal. The same crumbling brick facade, the same broken security door that never locked, the same graffiti on the mailboxes. She took the stairs 2 at a time to the 3rd floor. Her door was closed. Locked. Nothing looked disturbed. She unlocked it slowly, her hand shaking. The apartment was dark. Empty. She flipped on the lights. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Dylan's jacket on the back of the couch. His shoes by the door, the dishes she'd asked him to wash still in the sink. Her phone buzzed. Unknown. Not your apartment. Your parents' house. The world stopped. Her parents lived in a suburb 40 minutes away. Her mother had MS. Her father was 68 with a bad heart. They were vulnerable, isolated. If you touch them, unknown. I'm not going to touch them, Lena. I'm just making sure you understand how serious this is. Dylan borrowed money from people who don't forgive debt. He promised collateral. He promised you. She couldn't breathe. I don't know anything about Dylan's debts. Unknown. I know. That's the problem. He put you in a situation you can't walk away from. So I'm giving you a choice. You can wait for his creditors to come collect, or you can come with me. This is insane. Unknown. This is reality. You have 10 minutes to decide. I'm parked outside your building. Black Mercedes. You'll know it when you see it. She ran to the window. 3 stories down, under the streetlight, sat a black Mercedes S-Class. Tinted windows. Engine running. As she watched, the driver's window rolled down just enough for her to see a hand, masculine, rings on 2 fingers, resting on the door. Then her phone rang. Not a text. A call. From the same unknown number. She answered. Who are you? Raphael Voss? The voice was smooth, controlled, with an accent she couldn't quite place. European, maybe. Eastern. And you need to listen very carefully, Lena. Dylan took money from people I work with, a lot of money. When he couldn't pay it back, he offered them something else. He gave them your name, your address, your work schedule. He told them you were worth the debt. That's not legal. You can't. Legality stopped mattering the moment Dylan signed his name on that contract. Raphael's voice didn't rise, didn't change inflection. That somehow made it worse. They're coming for you tonight. I'd estimate you have about 30 minutes before they arrive, maybe less. Why are you telling me this? What do you want? I want to offer you a 3rd option. Come with me. Let me keep you safe while I clean up Dylan's mess. Or stay and see what happens when men like that come to collect. This is kidnapping. Kidnapping implies I'm taking you against your will. I'm offering you protection. The choice is yours. She looked around her apartment, at the life she'd built, the photos on the wall, the nursing degree she'd fought for, the normalcy she'd worked so hard to maintain. How do I know you're telling the truth? You don't. But ask yourself, why would I waste time on an elaborate lie? If I wanted you, I'd have taken you already. He was right. She hated that he was right. I need to call Dylan. He won't answer. He's already gone, Lena. He ran the moment he realized what he'd done. Left you holding the bag. My parents are safe for now, as long as you cooperate. The threat was subtle but clear. She closed her eyes. Opened them. If I come with you, you'll make sure they're protected? Yes. For how long? Until this is resolved. And then you're free to go. She didn't believe him. Couldn't. But what choice did she have? I'm coming down. She hung up before he could respond. Lena grabbed a backpack and started throwing things in. Clothes, toiletries, her passport, cash she kept hidden in a drawer. Her hands moved on autopilot while her brain screamed that this was insane, that she should call the police, that there had to be another way. But she knew better. She'd worked ER long enough to know what happened to people who got mixed up with the wrong crowd. She'd sutured knife wounds, treated overdoses, held the hands of dying men who'd made bad choices and run out of time to fix them. Dylan had made her into one of those bad choices. She looked around the apartment one last time, at the life she was leaving. Then she walked out and didn't lock the door behind her. The Mercedes was still idling when she reached the street. As she approached, the back door opened. "Get in." She hesitated. This was it, the moment she could still walk away, call the cops. Take her chances. Then she saw the headlights at the end of the block. 2 vehicles, moving slow, hunting. She got in the car. The door closed behind her and the Mercedes pulled away from the curb with smooth precision. The interior smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't name. The man in the driver's seat wore a suit. The man in the passenger seat had a gun visible in a shoulder holster. And the man sitting next to her in the back seat, Raphael Voss, looked nothing like she'd expected. He was younger than his voice suggested. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair swept back, sharp features, eyes that caught the streetlights and reflected them back like a predator's. He wore a black suit with no tie, the collar open, and those rings she'd seen, silver, intricate, caught the light as he gestured. "Seatbelt," he said. She buckled herself in because arguing seemed pointless. They drove in silence. She watched the city pass by. Familiar streets becoming unfamiliar ones. The buildings getting taller, the neighborhoods getting cleaner. They were heading downtown, toward the financial district. "Where are we going?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." He glanced at her. "It's the only one you're getting tonight." She wanted to scream, to demand answers. But the gun in the front seat and the casual confidence of the men around her made it clear that her wants didn't matter right now. "Dylan really gave them my name?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because he's a coward who values his own skin more than yours." The brutal honesty was almost refreshing. At least he wasn't pretending this was anything other than what it was. "And you? Why did you warn me?" Raphael turned to look at her fully for the first time. His eyes were dark, brown or black. She couldn't tell in the low light. "Because I have rules. Women and children aren't collateral. What Dylan did violated those rules." "So this is about principles? This is about making sure you don't end up dead in an alley because your boyfriend is an idiot." The car turned into an underground parking garage. Security cameras tracked their movement. A guard waved them through. They descended deeper, level after level, until they reached what had to be private parking. The driver pulled into a spot near an elevator. The man with the gun got out first, scanning the area before nodding. Raphael opened his door. "Come on." Lena followed because what else was she going to do? The elevator required a key card. Raphael swiped his and pressed the button for the 40th floor. The highest button available. "You live in the penthouse?" She couldn't keep the disbelief out of her voice. "I own the building." Of course he did. The elevator rose smoothly. Her ears popped. She watched the numbers climb and tried to figure out what kind of man she'd just gotten into a car with. Criminal, obviously. But what kind? Drugs? Weapons? Human trafficking? The thought made her sick. The elevator opened directly into an apartment, not a hallway, not a lobby. The doors parted and she was standing in someone's home, except calling it a home was like calling the ocean a puddle. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The skyline glittered like scattered diamonds. The space was massive, open concept, modern, expensive in a way that didn't scream wealth so much as whisper it with absolute confidence. Dark floors, minimal furniture, art on the walls that she suspected was original. "This way." Raphael walked past her like he'd already forgotten she existed. She followed him through the living area, past a kitchen that looked like it had never been used, down a hallway lined with closed doors. He stopped at one and opened it. "You'll stay here." It was a bedroom, guest room, she assumed, though it was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed was massive. The windows faced east. There was a bathroom attached. "The door locks from the inside," Raphael continued. "Use it if it makes you feel safer. There's a phone on the nightstand. It only calls one number, mine. If you need anything, use it." She stepped into the room slowly, still half convinced this was a nightmare she'd wake up from. "What happens now?" "Now you rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss the details." "I want to call my parents." "No." She turned to face him. "Excuse me?" No contact with anyone until this is resolved. That includes your parents, your friends, your coworkers. No one can know where you are. That's not fair. Fair? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lena, nothing about this is fair, but those are the rules if you want to stay alive. How long? I don't know. That's not good enough. He stepped closer, not threatening exactly, but close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. It's going to have to be. I'm keeping you safe. That's all you need to know right now. I didn't ask you to save me. No, but I did it anyway. He turned toward the door. Get some sleep. We'll talk in the morning. Wait. He paused, hand on the door frame. Why do you care? Really? You don't know me. This isn't your problem. Raphael looked back at her, and for just a moment something flickered across his face, something that might have been sympathy or regret. Because I know what it's like to be used as collateral, and I promised myself a long time ago that I'd never let it happen to someone else if I could prevent it. He pulled the door closed behind him. Lock the door, Lena. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the closed door. Then she walked over and turned the lock. It clicked into place with a finality that felt like a cell door closing. Well, she didn't sleep. How could she? She paced the room, checking her phone every few minutes even though there was no signal. Raphael had probably blocked it somehow. The windows didn't open. She'd tried. The room was beautiful, but it was still a cage. Around 3 a.m., she heard voices in the hallway, men talking in a language she didn't recognize. Russian, maybe. The conversation was brief, then silence again. She sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process everything that had happened in the last 4 hours. This morning she'd been a nurse with a normal life and a boyfriend she thought she knew. Now she was locked in a penthouse, held by a man who claimed to be protecting her from people her boyfriend had sold her to. It sounded insane. It was insane. But the fear in her gut told her it was also true. She thought about Dylan, about the way he'd kissed her goodbye that morning before her shift, the way he'd said, "I love you," like he meant it. Had he known then what he'd done? Had he looked her in the eye and lied? The anger came back, hot and sharp. She wanted to scream, to break something, to find Dylan and make him explain why she wasn't worth more than whatever debt he'd accumulated. But anger wouldn't help her now. She needed to think, to plan. She needed to survive. Morning came with gray light filtering through the windows. Lena had finally dozed off around 5, still fully clothed on top of the covers. She woke to the sound of her door unlocking. She sat up fast, heart pounding. The door opened. A woman stood there, late 50s, wearing slacks and a crisp white shirt. She carried a tray. "Good morning, Miss Carter. I'm Elena. I've brought you breakfast." Lena stared at her. "Did you just unlock my door from the outside?" "Mister, Voss asked me to check on you." Elena set the tray on the desk. Coffee, eggs, toast, fruit, like this was a hotel. "He'd like to see you in his office when you're ready." "And if I'm not ready?" Elena's expression didn't change. "Then I'll tell him that. But I suggest you eat first. It's going to be a long day." She left, pulling the door closed but not locking it this time. Lena looked at the food. Her stomach growled despite everything. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. The hospital coffee didn't count. She forced herself to eat mechanically. The eggs were perfect. The coffee was better than anything she'd made in her life. It tasted like surrender. When she finished, she used the bathroom, marble and chrome, products that probably cost more than her car payment, and tried to make herself look less like someone who'd been kidnapped. It didn't really work. She found Raphael in what Elena had called his office. It was more like a command center, multiple monitors, a desk that looked like it cost more than her student loans, windows behind him showing the city waking up below. He was on the phone when she entered, speaking that same language she'd heard in the hallway. He gestured for her to sit. She remained standing. He finished his call and set the phone down. "You look terrible." "Thanks. That's exactly what every woman wants to hear." Something that might have been amusement crossed his face. "Did you sleep?" "No." "Elena said you ate. Am I supposed to thank you for feeding me? I'm not keeping you prisoner, Lena. You're here for your protection." "Then I can leave?" "No." That's literally the definition of being kept prisoner. He stood and walked around the desk. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from always being the most dangerous person in any room. Sit down, please. The please felt like an afterthought, but she sat anyway, mostly because her legs were shaking. Raphael leaned against the desk. I'm going to explain this once. Dylan borrowed $250,000 from an organization I work with. He promised to pay it back in 6 months. He didn't. When they came to collect, he couldn't pay. So he offered them alternative compensation, you. Her stomach turned. How is that legal? It's not. It's also not uncommon in my world. Your world? She laughed bitterly. And what world is that? The one that exists in the spaces between legal and illegal, where debts are paid in blood or favors, and contracts are enforced by people who don't care about courts or lawyers. You're a criminal. Yes. At least he was honest. And Dylan knew what kind of people he was borrowing from? He knew enough. Then why would he do it? Raphael shrugged. Gambling debts, bad investments, stupidity. Does it matter? He made his choice and you're paying for it. She wanted to argue, but he was right. What do they want from me? Originally, they were going to sell you. The words hit her like a physical blow. Sell me? Yes, trafficking is profitable. A young, educated American woman? You would have brought a high price. She was going to be sick. But that's not going to happen, Raphael continued, because I intervened. I bought Dylan's debt. You what? I paid them what he owed, plus interest. The debt is now mine, which means you belong to me until it's resolved. I don't belong to anyone. Legally? No. In practical terms? Yes. He picked up a folder from his desk and handed it to her. That's Dylan's contract. Your name is on it, your information. He signed over your autonomy the moment he put you down as collateral. She opened the folder with shaking hands. The papers inside looked official, legal. Her name was there, her address, her social security number, and Dylan's signature at the bottom. This can't be real. It is. She threw the folder at him, papers scattered. Then sue him, take him to court. And explain what? That I bought human collateral? That I'm enforcing an illegal contract? Raphael picked up the papers calmly. Think, Lena. We're not in your world anymore. We're in mine. And in my world, there's only one way to resolve this. Which is? I find Dylan. I make him pay back the money. Or I make him pay in other ways. The implication was clear. You're going to kill him. I'm going to do whatever is necessary to close this debt. She stood up so fast the chair fell backward. I'm not going to be part of this. You already are. Then let me go. Forget you ever met me. I'll disappear. Change my name. Move somewhere. They'll find you. Raphael's voice was flat, final. These people have resources you can't imagine, and they don't forgive. If I let you go, you'll be dead in a week. So my options are stay here as your prisoner or die. Your options are trust that I'm keeping you alive or run and see what happens. She hated him in that moment, hated Dylan more, but mostly she hated herself for being stupid enough to trust the wrong person. How long? Her voice came out broken. Until I find Dylan and resolve this. Could be days. Could be weeks. And if you can't find him, Raphael's expression didn't change. I'll find him. There was absolute certainty in those words. Like failure wasn't even a possibility he considered. She sank back into the chair she'd knocked over. What happens to me while you're looking? You stay here, you stay safe, and you don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Trying to leave, trying to contact anyone, trying to run. He crouched down so they were eye level. I'm not your enemy, Lena. I'm the only reason you're still alive. Remember that. You're also the reason I'm trapped. No, Dylan is the reason you're trapped. I'm just the one keeping the trap comfortable. She wanted to argue, to fight, but exhaustion was setting in. Bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that had nothing to do with missed sleep and everything to do with realizing your life had imploded in less than 12 hours. Can I at least call my parents? Let them know I'm alive? No. They'll worry. They'll survive worry. They won't survive what happens if the wrong people trace that call. You're paranoid. I'm careful. There's a difference. He stood and walked back to his desk. Elena will get you anything you need, clothes, books, whatever. Just tell her. I need my freedom. That's the one thing I can't give you. She laughed. It came out sharp and bitter. You know what the worst part is? I actually believe you're trying to help. In your own twisted way, you think you're doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. By holding me hostage? By keeping you breathing. They stared at each other across the office. The morning sun had broken through the clouds, spilling golden light across the floor between them. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it just felt like a spotlight on everything wrong with this situation. I hate this, she said quietly. I know. I hate you. I know that too. But I don't have a choice. No, Raphael agreed. You don't. She stood up. Then I guess I'm your prisoner. Guest. Prisoner. She walked toward the door. Might as well be honest about it. She left before he could respond. She didn't want to hear whatever justification he'd come up with. Didn't want to see that controlled expression that never quite reached his eyes. She just wanted to scream. But she couldn't. Because he was right. As much as she hated to admit it, Raphael Voss was the only thing standing between her and something much worse, and that terrified her more than anything else. The days bled together in that penthouse prison. Lena counted them at first, 1, 2, 3, marking time like she was waiting for a sentence to end. But by day 5, she stopped counting. It felt too much like giving up. Elena came every morning with breakfast and that same neutral expression, like keeping hostages was just another item on her to-do list. She never asked questions, never offered information, just delivered meals, clean clothes that somehow fit perfectly, and the occasional book when Lena requested one. How long have you worked for him? Lena asked on day 6, desperate for any kind of human connection. Elena paused at the door. Long enough to know when to mind my own business, Miss Carter. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. But her voice softened slightly. The gray sweater or the blue one today? Does it matter? It might. To you. Lena looked at the woman, really looked. She saw the way Elena held herself, the careful distance she maintained, the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned not to get involved. She'd probably seen other people in this position, other women Raphael had protected. The blue one, Lena said quietly. Elena nodded and left. Lena wore the blue sweater even though it felt like admitting defeat. Like accepting that this was her life now, choosing between sweaters and a gilded cage while the man who held her captive hunted her ex-boyfriend somewhere in the city below. She spent hours at the windows, watching the world continue without her. People walked their dogs, grabbed coffee, lived their normal lives. She wondered if anyone at the hospital had noticed she was gone, if Marcus had tried to call, if her parents had driven to her apartment when she didn't answer their Sunday phone call. That thought hurt the most. Her mother would worry. Her father would try to be strong, but she knew he'd be terrified underneath. And she couldn't even send them a text to say she was alive. Raphael appeared sporadically. Sometimes she'd hear him in his office, speaking rapid fire in Russian or that other language she still couldn't identify. Sometimes she'd find him in the kitchen at odd hours, drinking coffee that smelled expensive and looking at his phone with an expression that suggested bad news. He never tried to talk to her beyond the necessary updates. Still looking for Dylan. No changes to the situation. Stay away from the windows when the sun goes down. That last one had confused her until she realized he was worried about snipers, about people watching the building, about threats she couldn't even imagine. On day 7, she broke. It happened in the bathroom. She'd been staring at herself in the mirror, at the dark circles under her eyes, at the way her collarbones were starting to show because stress killed her appetite better than any diet, and something just snapped. She grabbed a glass from the counter and threw it against the wall. It shattered with a satisfying crash. Then she grabbed another one, and another. She destroyed every glass in that bathroom, screaming wordlessly, letting out all the fear and rage and helplessness she'd been choking down. Elena found her sitting in the wreckage, crying into her hands. Miss Carter, don't! Lena's voice came out raw. Don't tell me it's going to be okay. Don't tell me Mr. Voss is doing his best. Just don't. Elena stood there for a long moment. Then she sat down beside Lena, right there on the floor amid the broken glass, and said nothing. Just sat with her while she fell apart. When Lena finally ran out of tears, Elena spoke. I had a daughter once. About your age. Lena looked up. Had? She got involved with the wrong man, too, made promises she couldn't keep, borrowed money from people she shouldn't have. Elena's voice stayed steady, but something flickered in her eyes. By the time I found out, it was too late. What happened? She disappeared 14 years ago. I've been looking ever since. The weight of those words settled over them both. Is that why you work for Raphael? Mr. Voss has resources, connections. He's helped me follow leads that the police couldn't or wouldn't pursue. In exchange, I manage his household. Elena stood and offered Lena her hand. Come, let's get you cleaned up. Lena took the offered hand and let herself be pulled to her feet. Does he know about your daughter? He's the only one who does. Elena began carefully picking up the larger pieces of glass. He's not a good man, Miss Carter, but he keeps his word. If he says he'll protect you, he will. Even if it means keeping me prisoner? Especially then. They cleaned up the mess together in silence. When they finished, Elena brought her tea, real tea, not the expensive stuff, but something that tasted like comfort, and sat with her while she drank it. The blue sweater was a good choice, Elena said before she left. It brings out your eyes. It was such a normal thing to say, such a human thing. Lena almost started crying again. That night, she couldn't sleep. Again. She'd developed a routine of insomnia, lying in bed until 2 a.m., then getting up to pace, then trying again around 4 a.m., and sometimes managing a few hours before dawn. She was standing at the window watching the city lights when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Then her door opened. She spun around. Raphael stood in the doorway, still wearing his suit, but with his jacket gone and his sleeves rolled up. He looked tired. Actually tired, not just his usual controlled exhaustion. Can't sleep? He asked. Does it matter? He stepped into the room. She noticed he left the door open behind him, like he was proving he wasn't a threat. I heard about the bathroom. Are you going to bill me for the glasses? No. He walked to the window and stood beside her, looking out at the same view. I've destroyed my fair share of bathrooms over the years. It happens. She didn't know what to say to that. I found Dylan, Raphael said after a moment. Her heart stopped. Where? Atlantic City. He's been gambling, badly. Lost another $50,000 in the past week. Of course he has. The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. That's what he does. Loses money, destroys lives, runs away. He's staying at the Tropicana, under a fake name, but not a very good one. I have people watching him. What happens now? Raphael turned to look at her. In the low light from the city below, his face was all shadows and sharp angles. Now I decide how to handle this. You mean how to kill him? I mean how to resolve the debt. That's the same thing. Not necessarily. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He pulled up a photo and handed it to her. That's Dylan, 2 hours ago. She looked at the screen. Dylan sat at a blackjack table, laughing, a drink in his hand. He looked happy, relaxed, like he didn't have a care in the world while she was trapped in a penthouse, terrified and alone. Something dark and vicious rose in her chest. I want to see him. No. He did this to me. He put me here. I deserve to look him in the eye and ask him why. Lena. Don't tell me no. She shoved the phone back at him. You said I'm not a prisoner. Prove it. Let me confront him. That's not safe. I don't care about safe. I care about answers. Raphael studied her for a long moment. She could see him calculating, weighing risks against benefits. If I take you to him, you follow my rules. You don't leave my sight. You don't do anything stupid. I won't. Because if something goes wrong, if his creditors find out where he is before I'm ready, we're both dead. You understand that? She understood, and she didn't care. When do we leave? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You're not what I expected. You know that? What did you expect? Someone who'd cry more, beg more, someone who'd break. I already broke, she said quietly. Ask your bathroom. That wasn't breaking. That was releasing pressure. He pocketed his phone. We leave tomorrow night. Pack light. And Lena? Yeah? Whatever you're imagining this confrontation will be, whatever closure you think you'll get, you won't. It never works that way. I know. But she didn't. Not really. The next day moved like honey, slow and thick and suffocating. Lena tried to eat but couldn't, tried to rest but her mind wouldn't stop spinning. She kept imagining what she'd say to Dylan, how she'd make him explain, how she'd make him hurt the way he'd hurt her. Elena brought her clothes that were darker, more practical than the comfortable loungewear she'd been living in. Mr. Voss's orders. He said you'll need to blend in. Blend in where? I don't ask questions, Miss Carter. I suggest you don't either. By the time evening came, Lena was vibrating with nervous energy. Raphael found her pacing her room at 8 p.m. Ready? She nodded, not trusting her voice. They took the elevator down to the parking garage. The same driver from her first night was waiting. Raphael opened the back door for her, then slid in beside her. The rules, he said as they pulled out onto the street. You stay next to me. You don't speak unless I tell you to. If I say we're leaving, we leave immediately. No arguments. Fine. I'm serious, Lena. These people Dylan owes money to. They're looking for him too, and they're not as patient as I am. I said fine. The drive to Atlantic City took 2 hours. Lena watched the landscape change from urban sprawl to highway to the gaudy lights of the casino strip. Raphael made phone calls in Russian, his voice clipped and efficient. He was coordinating something. She didn't know what and didn't ask. They parked in a garage 3 blocks from the Tropicana. Raphael's driver stayed with the car. 2 other men were waiting for them, both wearing suits, both carrying guns they didn't bother to hide. Victor, Sergei. Raphael greeted them in English for her benefit. Status? He's still at the tables, Victor said. He was older, gray at the temples, with scars on his knuckles. Losing. He's down about 30,000 tonight. Security? Minimal. Casino doesn't know who he is. We can move whenever you're ready. Raphael nodded. Then he turned to Lena. Last chance to change your mind. I'm not changing my mind. Then stay close. They walked through the casino like they owned it. People moved out of Raphael's way without seeming to realize they were doing it. He had that kind of presence, the kind that made crowds part and pit bosses look the other way. Lena spotted Dylan before Raphael pointed him out. He was at a roulette table now, chips stacked in front of him, that same easy smile on his face. He'd grown a beard. It looked terrible. Her hands clenched into fists. Raphael's hand closed around her elbow. Not hard, but firm. Remember the rules. I remember. They approached the table. Dylan was so focused on the spin that he didn't notice them at first. The ball clattered around the wheel, landed on black. Dylan swore and shoved more chips forward. Bad luck, Raphael said. Dylan looked up. His face went white. Oh, shit. Hello, Dylan. Raphael's voice was pleasant, conversational, like they were old friends. I think we need to talk. Dylan's eyes darted around, looking for an exit, but Victor and Sergei had already moved to block the paths. There was nowhere to run. Then Dylan saw Lena. Something flickered across his face, guilt, maybe, or fear. Hard to tell. Lena, baby, I can explain. Don't call me that. Her voice came out cold, controlled. It surprised her. Stand up. Listen, this is all a misunderstanding. Raphael leaned down, his hand on Dylan's shoulder. To anyone watching, it probably looked friendly, but Lena saw Dylan wince. She said, stand up. Dylan stood. He looked smaller than she remembered, weaker. His shirt was wrinkled and there were dark circles under his eyes. The beard really did look terrible. We're going to walk to the parking garage, Raphael said quietly. All of us. Nice and calm. You're going to cash out your chips and we're going to leave. If you run, if you make a scene, if you do anything except exactly what I tell you, my associates will make sure you regret it. Understand? Dylan nodded. His hands were shaking as he gathered his chips. They walked through the casino in a tight group, Raphael on one side of Dylan, Victor on the other, Sergei behind them. Lena brought up the rear, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Dylan cashed out $3,000. He'd come with 30 and left with 3. Typical. The parking garage was cold and dim. Their footsteps echoed. Raphael led them to a corner away from the cameras. Talk, Raphael said. Dylan looked at Lena. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know they'd actually come for you. I thought I had more time. You used me as collateral. Her voice didn't shake. She was proud of that. You signed my name on a contract with criminals and you didn't even tell me. Plus, I was going to pay it back. I had a system. I just needed one more score. You always need one more score. That's all you ever do. Chase the next big win while everything else falls apart. I love you. You stole from me. You sold me. You ran away and left me to deal with the consequences. She stepped closer. Where's the money, Dylan? The $6,000 you took from our account? He couldn't meet her eyes. Gone. Gone where? I had debts. Other debts. I needed to pay people or they were going to hurt me. So you paid them with my money and offered me up instead? I didn't think they'd actually do it. I thought I could win enough to pay everyone back before it mattered. Raphael made a sound that might have been a laugh. How's that working out for you? Dylan's face crumpled. Please, I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. Just give me time. You don't have time. Raphael pulled out his phone. Your original creditors? The ones you borrowed the $250,000 from? They're here in Atlantic City. They've been tracking you for the past 3 days. I'm the only reason they haven't already put a bullet in your head. What? No, that's not... They know which hotel you're in. They know what room. They were planning to come for you tonight. Raphael showed him something on his phone. I paid them to wait, to give me 24 hours to handle this personally. So you see, Dylan, you don't have time. You have hours, maybe less. Dylan looked like he might throw up. What do you want? I want you to tell Lena the truth, all of it. I already did. No. You told her what you think she wants to hear. Tell her the truth. Raphael's voice went hard. Or I let my colleagues handle this their way. The parking garage went silent except for the distant sound of traffic. Dylan swallowed hard. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I never planned to marry you. The words hit her like a slap. The ring I promised? I never bought it. I was never going to. I was using you. For the apartment. For the money. For someone to come home to who wouldn't ask too many questions. He couldn't look at her. I've been gambling for years, since before we met. I owe money to 6 different people. The $250 was just the biggest one. Why me? Her voice cracked. Why stay if you didn't love me? Because you were easy. The words came out flat, honest, cruel. You worked nights. You didn't ask where I went or what I did. You believed me when I lied. And you had savings, clean money I could access. Lena felt something break inside her chest, not her heart, that had broken when she saw the bank account. This was something else, something that had been holding her together. When I couldn't pay them back, they said I could offer alternative compensation. I gave them your name because I knew they wouldn't actually collect. I thought it would buy me time. I thought I could disappear before anyone came looking. Dylan finally looked at her. His eyes were red. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'm not a bad person. I just made bad choices. You're right, Lena said quietly. You're not a bad person. Bad people have convictions, principles. You're nothing. You're just a coward who destroys everything you touch. Dylan flinched like she'd hit him. Raphael checked his phone. We're done here. Wait. Lena stepped closer to Dylan. Did you ever actually care? Even a little? Dylan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I wanted to. Does that count? No. She turned to Raphael. I'm ready to leave. What about him? Victor asked, gesturing to Dylan. Raphael looked at Dylan with an expression of pure contempt. Let him go. Dylan's face flooded with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. I swear I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. You didn't let me finish. Raphael's voice dropped to something cold and final. I'm letting you go because killing you would be mercy. I want you to live knowing what you did, knowing that the people you owe money to are still looking, that they'll always be looking, that every shadow, every stranger, every unexpected knock on the door could be them coming to collect. Dylan's relief turned to horror. You can't just, I bought your debt. I can do whatever I want with it. And what I want is for you to spend the rest of your miserable life looking over your shoulder. Raphael gestured to Victor and Sergei. Make sure he gets back to his hotel safely, then make sure he checks out. and make sure our friends know exactly where he's going. No, no, please. But Victor already had him by the arm, dragging him toward a different car. Dylan's protests echoed through the garage until a door slammed and cut them off. Lena stood there in the sudden silence, trembling. Are you okay? Raphael asked. I don't know. She wrapped her arms around herself. I wanted answers. I got them. I don't know why I thought they'd make me feel better. Because you're human. We all think the truth will set us free. He started walking toward their car. It never does. She followed him because she didn't know what else to do. The driver opened the door and she climbed in. Raphael slid in beside her. The car pulled out of the garage and headed back toward the highway. What happens now? She asked after several miles of silence. Now Dylan's debt is settled. The people he owed money to will leave you alone because they know I'll retaliate if they don't. You're free to go. She should have felt relief. She didn't. Just like that? Just like that. What about you? What do you get out of this? Raphael looked at her. The satisfaction of doing the right thing, for once. You don't strike me as someone who needs that kind of validation. Maybe I'm trying to change. They drove through the night. Lena watched the lights blur past her window and tried to process everything. Dylan's confession, his casual cruelty, the way he'd destroyed her life and felt sorry for himself about it. But more than that, she thought about Raphael, about the way he'd kept his word, protected her, given her the confrontation she'd demanded even though he'd known it would hurt. Why did you really help me? She asked. Raphael was quiet for a long time. I told you, I have rules. That's not the whole truth. He sighed, ran a hand through his hair. When he spoke, his voice was different, less controlled, more human. When I was 16, my sister got involved with someone like Dylan, someone who made promises he couldn't keep and had debts he couldn't pay. When his creditors came calling, he offered her as compensation, just like Dylan offered you. Lena's breath caught. What happened? I found out too late. By the time I tracked her down, she'd been sold 3 times, ended up in a brothel in Prague. She killed herself rather than stay there. Raphael, I've spent the last 20 years making sure I have enough power, enough money, enough fear attached to my name that I can stop it from happening to other people. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail, but I keep trying. He looked at her. You're alive because my sister isn't. That's the whole truth. She didn't know what to say. What could anyone say to that? They reached the city as dawn broke. The penthouse felt different when they entered, less like a prison, more like a shelter. Raphael walked her to her room. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next. You said I was free to go. You are. Then why does it feel like I'm staying? He smiled. It was small and sad and the most genuine expression she'd seen on his face. Because you don't know where else to go yet. That's okay. Take your time. He turned to leave. Raphael? He paused. Thank you for keeping me alive, for giving me answers, for all of it. You're welcome. He closed the door behind him. Lena sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not from fear or anger this time, from something more complicated. Relief mixed with grief, mixed with a strange kind of gratitude for a man who'd saved her life in the most violent way possible. She fell asleep as the sun rose, finally exhausted enough that her body just gave up. And for the first time in over a week, she didn't dream about Dylan. She dreamed about windows that opened and doors that locked from the outside, and the weight of a gun she'd never held. When she woke, everything would change. But for now, she slept. Lena woke to voices arguing in Russian, loud ones, the kind that meant something had gone wrong. She sat up, disoriented. Sunlight streamed through the windows, late afternoon sun judging by the angle. She'd slept for hours. Her mouth tasted like cotton, and her head felt stuffed with fog. The voices got louder. One of them was Raphael. She'd never heard him raise his voice before. She got out of bed and cracked open her door. Down the hallway, in Raphael's office, she could see shadows moving. 3, maybe 4 people. The argument escalated into shouting. Then a crash. Something breaking. Lena stepped into the hallway without thinking. Elena appeared from nowhere and grabbed her arm. Back in your room. What's happening? Nothing that concerns you. Elena's grip was surprisingly strong. Please, Miss Carter, Go back inside. But before Lena could move, Raphael's office door slammed open. A man stormed out, tall, built like a boxer, with a shaved head and a scar running from his temple to his jaw. He saw Lena and stopped. His eyes went cold, calculating. So this is the girl. His English was heavily accented, Russian. The one causing all this trouble. Raphael appeared in the doorway behind him. Dmitri, walk away. Why? She's here. Let's ask her ourselves. Dmitri took a step toward Lena. Did Dylan tell you where the money is? I don't know what you're talking about. The $250,000. Did he tell you where he hid it before he spent it all? He said it was gone. He lied. Dmitri's smile was ugly. Dylan Morrison is a gambler and a coward, but he's not stupid. He skimmed off the top before he lost the rest, somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000, and I think you know where it is. Raphael moved between them. She doesn't know anything. Then why did you take her to see him? Dmitri's voice rose. Why give her that conversation unless you thought she could get information? I took her because she deserved answers, that's all. Answers. Dmitri spat the word like it tasted bad. You're getting soft, Raphael. That's dangerous in our line of work. My decisions are my own. Not when they affect the rest of us. You bought Dylan's debt, fine, but that money still needs to be recovered. And if this girl knows something, she doesn't. Let me ask her properly. 5 minutes alone. I'll get the truth. The temperature in the hallway dropped. Raphael's voice went quiet, deadly. You touch her, and we have a problem. We already have a problem. You're choosing some random woman over the organization, over your brothers. Dmitri gestured to the office behind him. Victor agrees with me. Sergei too. This attachment is making you weak. I'm not attached. I'm being strategic. Strategic? Dmitri laughed. It sounded like broken glass. Is that what you call it when you let a liability sleep in your home? When you risk exposure over someone who means nothing? Raphael's hand moved to his waist. Lena saw the gun there, partially hidden under his jacket. Choose your next words very carefully. The hallway went silent. Elena's grip on Lena's arm tightened. In the office behind Dmitri, Lena could see Victor and Sergei watching. Neither moved to intervene. Finally, Dmitri stepped back. This isn't over. Yes, Raphael said. It is. Dmitri left, shouldering past Raphael hard enough to make a point. Victor and Sergei followed without a word. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway. The elevator dinged. Then silence. Raphael turned to look at Lena. His expression was carefully blank, but something flickered underneath. Anger. Or maybe concern. Are you all right? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Elena, take her back to her room. I want to know what that was about, Lena said. No, you don't. Dylan has more money hidden somewhere? Raphael rubbed his face. He looked exhausted. It doesn't matter. It does if people are going to break into your apartment screaming about it. My apartment. My problem. He started to turn back to his office. Raphael. She pulled free from Elena's grip. If I'm part of this situation, I deserve to know what's happening. He stopped, considered, then gestured to his office. 5 minutes. Elena looked like she wanted to protest, but said nothing. Lena followed Raphael into the office. It was a mess. Papers scattered, a chair overturned, a glass broken on the floor. Evidence of the argument that had just ended. Raphael righted the chair and sat down heavily. Dylan didn't spend all the money he borrowed. We suspected, but he confirmed it when you confronted him. The way he reacted to certain questions, the things he didn't say. How much? We estimate between 50 and 70,000. Enough to matter. And Dmitri wants it. Dmitri wants blood. The money is just an excuse. Raphael leaned back. He's been challenging my authority for months, looking for opportunities to prove I'm not fit to lead. The situation with you, it's ammunition. Then let me go. Let me leave and this problem goes away. You leaving doesn't make Dmitri stop questioning my decisions. It just proves him right. Lena sat down across from him. So what do we do? We? Raphael raised an eyebrow. There's no we. This is my organization, my responsibility. Except I'm the one Dmitri wants to interrogate. I'm the one making you look weak. That makes it my problem too. You don't understand how this works. Then explain it to me. She leaned forward. Because right now I'm trapped in a penthouse while men with guns argue about whether I know something I don't. And I'm tired of being a pawn. Raphael studied her for a long moment. You really want to know? Yes. He stood and walked to the window. The city stretched out below them, indifferent to the drama playing out in this room. I run an organization that moves money for people who can't use traditional banks. Criminals, mostly. Sometimes legitimate businessmen who need to hide assets from governments or ex-wives. We launder, we invest, we facilitate transactions that can't happen in daylight. You're a banker for the mob, essentially. He didn't sound defensive, just matter of fact. It's profitable, it's dangerous, and it requires absolute loyalty from everyone involved. When someone like Dylan fails to pay back a loan, it undermines the entire system. It makes us look weak, like we can be taken advantage of. So you have to make an example. Usually, yes, but in this case, I chose to handle it differently. I bought his debt to protect you instead of collecting it the traditional way. That decision is now being questioned. Because I'm not worth it. Because showing mercy is seen as weakness. He turned to face her. Dimitri and others like him think I should have let Dylan's original creditors take you, or taken you myself and sold you to recoup the loss. That's how this world works. That's the logic everyone understands. The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. And what do you think? I think there has to be another way. I think we can be profitable without being monsters. But I'm in the minority with that opinion. That's why you told me about your sister. Why you have rules about women and children. Yes, Lena processed this. If you let me go now, Dimitri wins. He proves you're weak and takes over. Probably. And if I stay? Then I need to prove that protecting you was the strategically correct choice. That you're worth more alive and safe than sold or dead. How do you prove that? Raphael's smile was thin. By finding Dylan's hidden money. By recovering more than we would have gotten selling you. By turning you from a liability into an asset. I don't know where the money is. I know, but Dylan might have left clues, records, something in his belongings that could point us in the right direction. He walked to his desk and pulled out a file. This is everything we've gathered about Dylan's life. Bank statements, phone records, known associates. I need you to look through it. See if anything stands out. You want me to help you hunt down money my ex-boyfriend stole from criminals? I want you to help me keep us both alive. She took the file. It was thick. Months of surveillance condensed into paper form. And if I can't find anything? Then we hope Dimitri is patient enough to wait while I find another solution. He didn't seem very patient. No, Raphael agreed. He didn't. Lena opened the file. Bank statements going back 3 years. Transactions highlighted in yellow, phone records with numbers circled. Photos of Dylan with people she didn't recognize. Her hands shook as she flipped through pages documenting a life she'd thought she knew but clearly hadn't. I'll need time, she said. Take as much as you need. Just not too much. She looked up at him. Why are you doing this, really? And don't give me the line about your sister. There's something else. Raphael was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was softer, almost vulnerable. Because I'm tired. Tired of watching people get destroyed by a system that treats them like commodities. Tired of being part of that system. And maybe, just maybe, if I can save one person, if I can prove there's another way to do this, then the last 20 years weren't completely wasted. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. I know. I'm sorry. She stood, clutching the file. I'll do my best. But Raphael, if this goes wrong, if Dimitri comes for me again, I need you to promise me something. What? Don't let them take me alive. His expression hardened. It won't come to that. Promise me anyway. He crossed the room until he was standing right in front of her, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the lines around his mouth, the weight he carried. I promise. But I also promise I won't let it get that far. You're under my protection. That means something. Even if it costs you everything? Even then. She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She actually believed this man, this criminal who'd held her prisoner and involved her in a world she didn't understand, would sacrifice himself to keep her safe. Elena appeared in the doorway. Mr. Voss, the calls are coming in. Everyone wants to know what happened with Dmitri. Raphael's mask slipped back into place. Controlled, dangerous. The vulnerability disappeared like it had never existed. Tell them I'll address it at the meeting tomorrow night. They want answers now. They can wait. He looked at Lena. Go with Elena. Start going through that file. If you find anything at all, call me immediately. Lena nodded and let Elena lead her out. As they walked down the hallway, she heard Raphael's office door close. Then his voice, speaking rapid Russian into a phone. The conversation sounded tense. Back in her room, Elena brought coffee and sandwiches. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You'll need your strength. Elena set the tray down. He's putting everything on the line for you. I hope you understand that. I do. Do you? Elena's eyes were hard. Because from where I'm standing, you're still thinking like someone with options. You're not. Neither is he. Either you find something in that file that justifies his decision, or both of you pay the price. What price? For him? Loss of power. Exile if he's lucky. Death if he's not. For you? Elena paused at the door. You don't want to know. She left before Lena could respond. Lena sat on the bed and opened the file again. She forced herself to eat while she read. The sandwich tasted like cardboard, but Elena was right. She needed strength. The bank statements showed a pattern. Dylan depositing cash in irregular amounts. Never more than $9,000 at a time, just under the reporting threshold. The deposits always came in clusters. 3 or 4 within a week, then nothing for a month. The phone records were harder to decipher. Dozens of numbers, most unlisted. But one number appeared repeatedly. Always late at night. Always calls lasting less than 2 minutes. She grabbed her phone and dialed the number. It rang 4 times, then went to a generic voicemail. She hung up and stared at it. There was a pattern here. She could feel it. She just couldn't see it yet. She spent the next 3 hours going through every page, making notes, connecting dots. Her training as a nurse kicked in, the same systematic approach she used for diagnosis. Gather information, look for patterns, eliminate variables until only the answer remained. By midnight, she had something. The deposits matched up with poker tournaments, not the big ones. Small, underground games advertised on forums and private message boards. Dylan had been playing regularly, winning regularly, and skimming a percentage before reporting his winnings to the people he owed. But where would he hide that money? Not in a bank. Too easy to trace. Not in his apartment. Raphael's people had already searched it. Somewhere else. Somewhere he thought was safe. She thought back to their relationship, to the places Dylan went, his habits, his routines. Then it hit her. His gym. He'd belonged to an expensive gym downtown, one with private lockers that could be rented by the year. He'd always carried a separate key for it. Said he kept important documents there in case of fire. She'd thought he meant birth certificates, passports, normal things. She called Raphael. He answered on the first ring. I found something. He was at her door in less than a minute. She showed him her notes, explained her theory. Momentum Fitness on 5th Avenue, she said. Locker 247. He renewed it for 2 years last January, paid cash. Raphael pulled out his phone and started texting. Victor and Sergey can be there in 20 minutes. I should go with them. Absolutely not. I know which locker. I know the layout of the gym. I can get in and out without anyone noticing. You're not trained for this. And your people are? Raphael, this is a gym, not a war zone. If Victor and Sergey show up, someone will call the cops. But if I go, I'm just a member checking my locker. He started to argue, then stopped. She could see him calculating the angles. You're not a member anymore. Dylan would have had it under his name. So we say I'm his girlfriend. I have his key. I'm grabbing his stuff because we broke up and I don't want him coming to my place. She stood up. This will work, but only if I'm the one who goes. Raphael ran a hand through his hair. He looked like he wanted to refuse, but the logic was sound and they both knew it. Fine, but you're not going alone. I'm coming with you. You'll stand out. I don't care. You want to do this. We do it together. Those are my terms. She nodded. It was better than nothing. They left 30 minutes later. Raphael drove this time. A different car, something low-key and forgettable. A Honda Civic that looked like it belonged to a suburban dad. You have a Honda? I have many cars. Most of them aren't mine. He navigated through late-night traffic with the same controlled precision he brought to everything else. The gym closes at midnight. We have 15 minutes. What's the plan? You go to the locker. I watch your back. We get the money and leave. Simple. And if someone stops us? Then I handle it. The way he said it made her nervous. Momentum Fitness was in a building that used to be a bank. They'd kept the marble floors and high ceilings, but filled it with equipment and mirrors. Even at this hour, there were people working out. Young professionals burning off stress. Personal trainers finishing late sessions. Lena walked in like she belonged there. Raphael stayed close, but not too close. Just another person finishing a late workout. The locker room was in the basement. Down a flight of stairs, past the pool, through a hallway lined with private rental lockers. Number 247 was in the back corner. She pulled out the key Dylan had left at her apartment. It fit. Inside the locker were 3 things: a gym bag, a padded envelope, and a handgun. Lena's hands shook as she pulled out the envelope. It was heavy. She opened it. Cash. Stacks of hundreds bound with rubber bands. How much? Raphael asked, appearing beside her. She did quick math. At least 50,000, maybe more. Take it, all of it. We need to leave. She grabbed the gym bag and started transferring the money. Her hands moved on autopilot. Behind her, Raphael watched the hallway. She was almost done when she heard footsteps. Raphael's hand went to his waist, to the gun hidden there. A security guard appeared at the end of the hallway. Gym's closing in 5 minutes, folks. Just finishing up, Raphael called back. His voice was casual, friendly. Thanks for the heads up. The guard nodded and disappeared. Lena finished transferring the money and closed the bag. Her heart was hammering. The gun. Should we take it? Leave it. Serial numbers will be registered to Dylan. Not worth the risk. They locked the locker and walked out like nothing had happened. Up the stairs. Through the main floor, past the front desk where a bored employee barely looked up. They were in the car and 3 blocks away before Lena let herself breathe. We did it, she said. Raphael smiled, actually smiled. Yes, we did. How much do you think is there? We'll count it when we get home, but if your estimate is right, it's enough. Enough to prove I was worth saving? Enough to make Dmitri shut up, for now. They drove back to the penthouse in silence. Lena held the bag on her lap and tried to process what had just happened. She'd committed a crime. Breaking and entering, maybe. Theft, definitely. All to recover money her ex-boyfriend had stolen from criminals. Her life had become completely unrecognizable. Back at the penthouse, they spread the money out on Raphael's desk. Lena counted while he made calls. Final tally, $63,400. Raphael hung up the phone and looked at the stacks of cash. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. Or vindication. This changes things, he said. How? Dylan's debt was $250. I paid that to his creditors, but I also incurred costs protecting you. Security, resources, lost opportunities. This money covers those costs and then some, which means protecting you was actually profitable. So I'm an asset now. So you're safe now. He started organizing the cash into neat piles. Tomorrow, I'll present this to the organization. Show them the math. Prove that my approach worked better than the alternative. Dmitri will have to back down. And if he doesn't, then we have bigger problems. But for tonight, we won. Lena sat down. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her shaky and exhausted. I helped you commit a crime. You helped us survive. Is that what we're calling it? Raphael looked at her. Really looked. You did well tonight. You kept your head. Followed the plan. Most people would have panicked. I work in an ER. Panic gets people killed. So does hesitation, but you didn't hesitate. He poured them both drinks from a bottle she suspected cost more than her car. To surviving, she took the glass. To surviving. They drank. The liquor burned going down but left warmth behind. What happens now? She asked. Now you rest. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. Complicated how? The meeting with the organization. They'll want to see you, want proof that you're real and that the money came from where I said it did. You'll need to be there. Her stomach dropped. I have to face them? Just long enough to verify the story. Then you can leave. Leave as in go back to my room? Or leave as in actually leave? Raphael was quiet for a moment. That's up to you. You said I was free to go once this was resolved. Is it resolved? Dylan's debt is settled. The money is recovered. Dimitri's challenge is answered. Technically, yes. You're free to go. But there's no guarantee you'll be safe once you leave my protection. The people who wanted Dylan dead might still see you as connected to him, might come after you for revenge or just to tie up loose ends. So I'm still in danger. You might be. I don't know. I can make calls, put out warnings, but I can't control everyone. Lena looked around the penthouse, at the life she'd been living for the past 2 weeks, at the man who'd saved her and trapped her in equal measure. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. She stood. The exhaustion was crushing now. Thank you for tonight, for letting me help. Thank you for finding the money. You might have just saved both our lives. She walked to her room and closed the door, sat on the bed and stared at her hands. They didn't shake anymore. Somewhere between the gym and here, she'd stopped being afraid. That should have worried her. Instead, it felt like waking up. The meeting was set for 8 p.m. at a warehouse in Red Hook. Raphael told her this over breakfast, coffee and toast that Lena couldn't stomach. You don't have to come, he said, though they both knew that was a lie. Yes, I do. She pushed her plate away. If I don't show up, they'll think I'm not real, that you made the whole thing up. I could bring photos, documentation. They want to see me in person, to know I'm not just some story you invented to cover your ass. She met his eyes. I'm coming. Raphael looked like he wanted to argue but didn't. Stay close to me. Don't speak unless you're asked a direct question. And if things go wrong, you'll get me out, I know. No. His voice went hard. If things go wrong, you run. There's a door at the back of the warehouse. Victor will be stationed there. You go to him and he'll take you somewhere safe. What about you? I'll handle it. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He stood and grabbed his jacket. We leave in an hour. Wear something simple. Nothing flashy. She wore black jeans and a dark sweater, pulled her hair back into a ponytail, looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. 2 weeks ago, she'd been a nurse. Now she was about to walk into a room full of criminals to validate a story about stolen money and human collateral. Elena appeared with a small box. Mr. Voss asked me to give you this. Inside was a phone. Small, prepaid looking. What's this for? Emergency contact. His number is the only one programmed. If you get separated from him, you call immediately. Elena's expression was tight with worry. Please be careful tonight, Miss Carter. I will be. No, I mean it. These men, they're not like Mr. Voss. They won't see you as a person, just a problem to be solved. Lena pocketed the phone. I know what I'm walking into. I don't think you do, but I hope I'm wrong. The drive to Red Hook was tense. Raphael made calls in Russian, his voice clipped and authoritative, giving orders from the sound of it, making sure everything was in place. Lena watched the city pass by and tried to keep her breathing steady. She'd faced plenty of high-pressure situations in the ER. Code blues, mass casualty events, parents holding dying children. This shouldn't be different. Except in the ER, she had protocols, training, a team backing her up. Here, she had Raphael and a phone, and the hope that his reputation would keep her alive. The warehouse was exactly what she expected. Concrete and rust, windows covered with grime, the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. 3 cars were already parked outside, expensive ones. Black Mercedes, a BMW, an Audi. Raphael's driver pulled up beside them and killed the engine. Ready? No, Lena said honestly. Raphael almost smiled. Good. That means you're thinking clearly. He got out and came around to her door, opened it like they were arriving at a restaurant, not a criminal tribunal. Remember the rules. Stay close. Don't speak. Run if things go bad. Exactly. They walked to the entrance together. Victor was already there, standing guard. He nodded at Raphael, then looked at Lena with something that might have been sympathy. Inside, the warehouse was mostly empty. Just a table in the center with chairs around it, overhead lights creating a circle of harsh illumination. Beyond that circle, shadows and darkness. 6 men sat at the table. Lena recognized Dmitri immediately. The others were strangers, older men mostly, with the kind of faces that had seen too much and forgotten how to show it. Raphael guided her to a chair, and she sat. He remained standing behind her. A show of protection or possession, she wasn't sure which. Dmitri spoke first. So this is the famous Lena Carter. She didn't respond. Raphael had said not to speak unless asked directly. She's real, Dmitri continued, addressing the table. I'll give you that, Raphael. The girl exists, but that doesn't prove the rest of your story. The money proves it. Raphael's voice was calm. 63,000 recovered from Dylan Morrison's hidden assets, exactly where Lena said it would be. Or exactly where you planted it to support your narrative. One of the older men raised a hand. Dmitri, let's not waste time with conspiracy theories. I want to hear from the girl. He turned to Lena. His eyes were cold and evaluating. Miss Carter, tell us how you knew where Dylan kept the money. Lena swallowed. He mentioned his gym locker once. Said he kept important documents there. I didn't think much of it at the time, but when I saw his banking patterns, the cash deposits, the amounts, the timing, I realized he was skimming. He needed somewhere to hide it. And you just gave this information to Raphael? I wanted to help recover the debt, to prove I wasn't a liability. Why? The man leaned forward. Why help the people who were holding you? Because they were the only ones keeping me alive. She kept her voice steady. Dylan sold me to settle his debts. Raphael bought those debts to protect me. Helping him find the money was the least I could do. Dmitri laughed. It was an ugly sound. Listen to her. She's already learned to talk like one of us. How long before she's running cons of her own? Enough! Another man spoke up, younger than the others, with sharp features and expensive glasses. The money is real. The source checks out. Raphael's approach was unorthodox but effective. I see no reason to continue this challenge. Because it sets a precedent, Dmitri snapped. Next time someone wants to protect a girl, they'll point to this and say Raphael did it. We'll become a charity instead of an organization. We became an organization to make money, the man with glasses said. Raphael made money. Case closed. It's not about the money. Then what is it about, Dmitri? Raphael's voice cut through. Because if this is personal, say so. If you have a problem with my leadership, challenge me directly. Don't hide behind policy debates and hypotheticals. The warehouse went silent. Everyone was looking at Dmitri now. Lena could feel the tension ratcheting up, pulling tighter with each second of silence. Dmitri stood slowly. Fine. You want direct? I think you're compromised. I think this girl has gotten into your head and you're making decisions based on emotion instead of strategy. And I think that makes you unfit to lead. So challenge me. I am challenging you. Raphael stepped around Lena's chair, putting himself fully between her and Dmitri. Then let's settle this the traditional way. One of the older men stood up. Raphael, that's not necessary. He questions my fitness to lead. I'm giving him the opportunity to prove it. Raphael's voice was ice. Unless he's all talk? Dmitri's jaw clenched. You want to do this now. Why wait? Lena's heart was hammering. She didn't know what the traditional way meant, but the way everyone had gone tense suggested it wasn't good. The man with glasses sighed. Outside, we'll need witnesses. Everyone stood. Lena tried to follow, but Raphael turned and looked at her. Stay here. What's happening? Nothing you need to see. Raphael, stay. Here. He said it with such finality that she sat back down. The men filed out. Victor appeared from the shadows and positioned himself near the door, not guarding it, guarding her. What's going on? She asked him. Victor's expression was grim. They're going to fight. Old rules. Hand to hand until one submits or can't continue. That's insane. That's tradition. Through the warehouse walls, she could hear muffled voices, then silence, then the unmistakable sound of fists hitting flesh. Lena stood up. Victor moved to block her. Mr. Voss said you stay inside. I don't work for Mr. Voss. Tonight you do, for your own safety. She wanted to argue, but the sounds from outside were getting worse. Grunts of pain. Someone hitting the ground hard. She paced the warehouse floor, every instinct screaming at her to do something. She was a nurse. She helped people. She didn't stand by while they hurt each other. But this wasn't the ER. This was a different world with different rules, and she was starting to understand that in this world, intervention could get you killed. The fight lasted maybe 10 minutes. It felt like hours. When the warehouse door finally opened, the men filed back in. Raphael came last, walking under his own power but favoring his left side. His lip was split. Blood ran from a cut above his eye. His knuckles were raw and swelling. Dmitri wasn't with them. Raphael saw her looking and shook his head slightly. Not dead, the gesture said, but not walking away either. The man with glasses addressed the room. The challenge is resolved. Raphael remains in leadership. Anyone else have objections? Silence. Good. Then we're done here. He looked at Lena. Miss Carter, you're free to go. The organization has no further claim on you. We appreciate your cooperation in recovering the stolen funds. It should have felt like victory. It felt like dismissal. Raphael gestured toward the door. Victor will take you back to the penthouse. I need to handle some things here. You're bleeding. I'll live. Let me look at it. Later. His tone left no room for argument. Go with Victor. I'll be back in a few hours. She wanted to protest, wanted to demand he let her help. But the way everyone was watching them, evaluating, judging, made her swallow the words. Fine. Victor led her outside. Dmitri was on the ground near the cars, conscious but barely. 2 men were helping him up. He saw Lena and spat blood. This isn't over, he managed. Victor's hand went to his gun. Yes, it is. They got in the car and drove away. Lena looked back once and saw Raphael still standing in the warehouse doorway, silhouetted against the light, watching them leave. Back at the penthouse, Elena was waiting. She took one look at Lena's face and brought tea without being asked. He won then. How did you know? Because you're here and not in a basement somewhere. Elena set down the cup. And because he always wins, even when it costs him. What's that supposed to mean? It means Mr. Voss fights battles he doesn't have to fight because he thinks that's what leadership requires. He takes challenges personally when he should handle them politically. One of these days it's going to get him killed. He was protecting me. No, Miss Carter, he was protecting his pride. You just happened to be the excuse. The words stung because part of Lena suspected they were true. Raphael had fought Dmitri to prove a point about his authority, not to keep her safe. She'd been the catalyst, but not the cause. She drank her tea and tried not to think about the sounds of that fight, about Raphael's split lip and bleeding knuckles, about the way he'd looked at her before sending her away, like he was afraid of what he might do if she stayed. He came home around midnight. Lena heard the elevator, then footsteps. She'd been trying to sleep and failing. Now she got up and went to her door, opened it. Raphael was in the hallway, jacket off, shirt untucked, and stained with blood. He looked exhausted. You should be asleep, he said. So should you. I need to clean up first. Let me help. Lena, I'm a nurse. This is literally what I do. She stepped into the hallway. Where's your first aid kit? He hesitated, then gestured toward his bedroom. Bathroom. Under the sink. She'd never been in his room before. It was surprisingly Spartan, minimal furniture, neat surfaces, nothing personal except a single photograph on the nightstand. A young girl, maybe 14, smiling at the camera. His sister, she realized. The bathroom was marble and chrome. She found the first aid kit, a professional grade one, fully stocked, and brought it to where Raphael sat on the edge of his bed, slowly unbuttoning his shirt. How bad is it? She asked. Nothing broken, mostly bruising. She helped him pull the shirt off and tried not to react to what she saw. His torso was a canvas of old scars, some surgical, some clearly from violence. And new bruises were already forming over his ribs and stomach, dark purple spreading under the skin. You need ice. I need sleep. Ice first, then sleep. She went back to the kitchen and filled bags with ice, wrapped them in towels. When she returned, Raphael had moved to lean against the headboard, eyes closed. She pressed ice to his ribs, and he hissed, "Sorry." "It's fine. I've had worse." She cleaned the cut above his eye with antiseptic. It probably needed stitches, but would heal without them. His lip was worse, split on the inside. She had him rinse with salt water. "Hold still," she said, and carefully placed a butterfly bandage over the cut. "You're good at this. I've had practice." She stepped back to evaluate her work. "The bruising will hurt for a few days. Ice them regularly, stay hydrated, try not to fight anyone else." "I'll do my best." They looked at each other. In the low light of his bedroom, sitting this close, Lena could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of everything he carried. "Why did you really fight him?" she asked. "Because he challenged me." "That's not a reason. That's an excuse." Raphael was quiet for a long moment. "Because I'm tired of men like Dmitri thinking they can take whatever they want, use whoever they want. And if I let him get away with it, if I showed weakness, it would have sent a message that everything I've been trying to build doesn't matter." "What are you trying to build?" "Something better than what I inherited. A system that still makes money but doesn't destroy people in the process." He looked at the photograph on his nightstand. "My sister died because men like Dmitri saw her as property, as something to be used and discarded. I spent 20 years making sure I had enough power to stop that from happening to anyone else. But power attracts men like Dmitri, men who see mercy as weakness and compassion as a liability." "So you beat him unconscious to prove you're still strong enough to lead?" "Yes. At least he was honest." "You're going to get yourself killed," she said quietly. "Probably." "That doesn't bother you?" "It bothers me less than becoming the kind of man who would have let them take you." Lena sat down on the edge of the bed. "I don't understand you." "Good. That makes two of us." She laughed despite herself. "You're bleeding and bruised, and you just fought a man to defend your right to protect someone you barely know. And you think this is normal?" "I think it's necessary. There's a difference." "Is there?" He reached out and took her hand. His knuckles were swollen and split, but his grip was gentle. "You could have run tonight. When Victor brought you back, you could have packed your things and disappeared. Why didn't you?" "Because I needed to know you were okay." "Why?" She didn't have a good answer. Or maybe she did and didn't want to say it out loud. "Because you saved my life. Because you kept your word when you didn't have to. Because somewhere in the past 2 weeks, you became the only person I trust." His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. "That's dangerous." "I know." "You should leave, tomorrow, while you still can." "Is that what you want?" "What I want doesn't matter." "It matters to me." They were sitting too close. She could feel the heat coming off his bruised skin, could see the way his eyes had darkened, the way his breathing had changed. "Lena." Her name was a warning. She should have listened, should have stood up and walked away, gone back to her room and started planning her exit from this life. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was gentle at first, careful of his split lip, mindful of his injuries. But then his hand came up to cup the back of her head, and the kiss deepened, became something desperate and necessary. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "This is a mistake," Raphael said. "Probably." "You should go." "I know." But she didn't move, and neither did he. "If you stay," he said quietly, "everything changes. You understand that?" "I understand." "You won't just be under my protection. You'll be part of my world, part of everything that comes with it." "I'm already part of it. I've been part of it since the moment I got in your car." He studied her face like he was trying to memorize it. "I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. I can't promise you anything except that I'll do everything in my power to keep you alive." "That's more than Dylan ever gave me." "The bar is on the floor, Lena." She smiled. "Then exceed it." He kissed her again, slower this time, deliberate. And when she started to pull away, he held her closer. "Stay tonight," he said against her lips. "Just tonight. Then tomorrow we'll figure out what this means." She stayed. They didn't sleep. Just talked in the darkness, about his sister, about her parents, about the lives they'd had before all this. She told him about nursing school, about the first patient she'd lost, about the weight of holding someone's hand while they died. He told her about building his organization from nothing, about the compromises he'd made, about the line between necessary evil and unforgivable sin. Somewhere around dawn, they finally dozed off. Lena woke a few hours later to find Raphael watching her. "Hi," she said. "Hi. Any regrets? Ask me again in a year." She sat up, wincing at the stiffness in her back. Sleeping on someone else's bed while they had bruised ribs was not comfortable. "What happens now?" "Now we get breakfast. Then we figure out your next move." "My next move?" "You're free to go, remember? No more debt, no more obligation. You can walk away any time." She looked around his bedroom, at the photograph of his sister, at the scars on his body, at the life he'd built from violence and loss. "What if I don't want to walk away?" Raphael sat up carefully, holding his ribs. "Then we need to have a serious conversation about what staying means. Because this world, my world, it's not something you can dip in and out of. Once you're in, you're in." "I know." "Do you? Because 2 weeks ago you were a nurse with a normal life. Now you're helping criminals recover stolen money and kissing men who beat people unconscious. 2 weeks ago I was with a man who sold me to pay his debts. I think my judgment has always been questionable." He almost smiled. "Fair point. So what's the conversation?" Raphael got out of bed slowly and pulled on a clean shirt. "If you stay, you work for me, officially. I can't have you just living here with no purpose. It looks weak, like I'm keeping you as a what? As something other than what you are." She understood. "So give me a job." "Doing what? You're a nurse." "So use that. You said you move money for people who can't use traditional banks. That means injuries you can't take to hospitals, emergencies that need to be handled quietly." She stood and faced him. "I can do that. I can be your medical resource." He considered this. "It would be dangerous." "More dangerous than what I've already survived?" "Yes." "Then I guess I'll need training." Raphael looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Spoke in rapid Russian, hung up. "Victor will start training you tomorrow. Self-defense, weapons, situational awareness. If you're going to be part of this, you need to be able to protect yourself." "Okay. And Lena? Once we do this, once you officially join the organization, there's no going back." "You understand that?" She thought about her old life, the hospital, the apartment, the routine that had felt like safety, but had really just been vulnerability. She thought about her parents and the calls she'd need to make eventually to explain why she'd disappeared. She thought about everything she was giving up. Then she thought about the way Raphael had fought for her, the way he'd kept his word, the way he looked at her like she mattered. "I understand." "Then welcome to the organization." He held out his hand and she shook it. The gesture felt absurdly formal given that they'd spent the night together, but it also felt necessary. A line being crossed. A choice being made. Elena knocked on the door. "Mr. Voss, the phone calls are starting. Everyone wants to know about last night." "Tell them everything is handled." He looked at Lena. "And tell them we have a new member joining the medical staff." Elena's eyebrows rose, but she didn't comment. "As you wish." When she left, Lena turned to Raphael. "Medical staff? You make it sound so official." "That's because it is. Everything in this organization is official. We have structure, hierarchy, rules. Otherwise, it's just chaos." "And where do I fall in this hierarchy?" "Wherever you want. You'll report directly to me, which means you have more autonomy than most. But you'll also have more scrutiny." "Because of us?" "Because of us," he agreed. "People will assume you're getting preferential treatment, that our relationship is affecting my judgment. You'll have to work twice as hard to prove yourself." "I can handle that." "I know you can." He pulled her close, careful of his injuries. "But if it becomes too much, if you want out, you tell me. I'll help you disappear. Set you up somewhere safe with a new identity. No questions asked." "You'd really do that?" "I'd hate it, but yes." She kissed him, gentle and brief. "Then let's make sure it doesn't come to that." They had breakfast together, actual breakfast, not just coffee and fear. Elena made pancakes and didn't comment on the fact that Lena was wearing Raphael's shirt. Or maybe she did comment silently with the small smile she hid behind her coffee cup. Afterward, Raphael had to handle organization business, calls to make, people to reassure. The aftermath of last night's challenge still rippling through the system. Lena went back to her room and looked at her phone, the one from her old life. She had 17 missed calls from her parents, 12 from Marcus at the hospital, 8 from her supervisor asking where she was. She needed to make the calls, needed to explain, but what could she possibly say? In the end, she texted her parents first. Simple and honest. I'm safe. I'm sorry I disappeared. Something happened with Dylan and I had to leave quickly. I'm okay. I'll call soon to explain. Please don't worry, I love you. Her mother's response came immediately. Thank God. We've been terrified. Are you sure you're safe? Where are you? I'm safe. I promise. I'll explain everything when I call. Just needed you to know I'm alive. Her father texted next. Lena Marie Carter, you scared us half to death. Call us today or I'm filing a missing person report. She smiled despite everything. Her father only used her full name when he was truly worried. I'll call tonight, I promise. The hospital was harder. She couldn't tell them the truth. Couldn't explain that she'd been held in protective custody by criminals while they resolved her ex-boyfriend's debts. She called Marcus instead. He answered on the first ring. Lena, where the hell have you been? I'm sorry, I should have called sooner. Should have called? You vanished. Your apartment was unlocked. Your car was still there. We thought you were dead. I know. I'm sorry. Something happened with Dylan. I had to leave quickly, and I couldn't tell anyone where I was going. Are you safe? Yes. Are you coming back? She looked around her room in the penthouse, at the life she was choosing. No, I don't think I am. Lena, I need to quit, Marcus, effective immediately. I know it's unprofessional. I know it leaves everyone in a bind, but I can't come back. What happened? Talk to me. I can't, not yet, maybe not ever, but I need you to trust that I'm making the right choice. He was quiet for a long moment. Are you in trouble? No, I'm okay. I think I'm exactly where I need to be. That doesn't sound like you. Maybe I'm not who I used to be. Another pause. Okay, I'll let HR know. But Lena, if you need help, if you need anything, you call me, day or night. You understand? I understand. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. She hung up before he could respond, before she could second-guess herself. It was done. The bridge burned, her old life officially over. Raphael found her an hour later, staring out the window at the city below. Having second thoughts? No, just first thoughts about what comes next. He stood beside her. Victor is ready when you are. Your training starts today if you want it to. I want it to. It won't be easy. He's going to push you hard. Good. I need to be pushed. She turned to face him. I quit my job. Told my parents I'm safe, but didn't tell them where. Burned every bridge back to my old life. You didn't have to do that today. Yes, I did. If I'm going to do this, really do this, I can't keep one foot in the old world. I'm all in. Raphael pulled her close. Then welcome to the new world, Lena Carter. Try not to die in it. She laughed despite the gravity of the moment. I'll do my best. And she meant it. Whatever came next, whatever dangers, whatever challenges, whatever moral compromises, she would face them head on. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't surviving for someone else. She was choosing her own path, even if that path led straight into darkness. Victor's idea of training was 6 a.m. starts and no mercy. The first morning, Lena showed up in yoga pants and a t-shirt thinking it would be basic self-defense. He took one look at her and laughed. This isn't a fitness class? You want to survive in this world? You learn to fight dirty. By the end of week 1, she had bruises on top of bruises. Victor taught her pressure points, how to break holds, where to strike to incapacitate someone twice her size. He was relentless and she hated him for it. Then she'd go back to the penthouse and Raphael would ice her injuries, and she'd hate Victor a little less because she was starting to see why this mattered. He broke my nose once, Raphael said one night, gently pressing ice to her swollen shoulder. During my training, said I needed to learn what real pain felt like so I wouldn't freeze when it happened in the field. That's insane. That's effective. He moved the ice to her ribs. You're doing well, by the way. Victor says you're a quick learner. Victor doesn't say anything except again and faster. Raphael smiled. That means he likes you. The weapons training started in week 2, handguns first. Victor took her to a private range and taught her how to hold, aim, breathe. The first time she fired, the recoil surprised her and she nearly dropped the gun. Again, Victor said. By the end of the session, her hands were shaking and her ears were ringing despite the protection. But she'd hit the target. Not the center, but close enough. Better, Victor said. High praise coming from him. She practiced every day. Victor said muscle memory was everything, that when things went wrong you didn't think, you reacted. And your reactions needed to be automatic. Have you ever had to shoot someone? She asked him one afternoon. Yes? Did it get easier? No. It got necessary. He adjusted her stance. But that's the difference between us and them. We remember it's hard. The moment it becomes easy is the moment you've lost something important. The medical work started slowly. Raphael brought her small cases at first, stitching up a cut that couldn't go to a hospital, treating a bullet graze, setting a dislocated shoulder. Nothing major. Nothing that would get her killed if she messed up. She worked out of a room Raphael had converted into a makeshift clinic, stocked with supplies that Lena somehow acquired without questions. Lena didn't ask where it came from. She was learning that in this world you didn't ask questions unless you were prepared for answers that would keep you awake at night. The first serious case came 3 weeks after she'd joined. Victor brought in a man who'd been stabbed in the abdomen. The wound was deep and the man was going into shock. Lena's ER training kicked in immediately. Get him on the table. I need pressure on the wound. Raphael, I need blood type and saline now. Raphael moved without question. Victor held pressure while Lena assessed. The knife had missed major organs but nicked the intestine. It was going to be messy. He needs a hospital, she said. Can't do that, Victor replied. He's wanted. They'll arrest him. Then he might die. So save him. She'd done field surgery before. During her residency, she'd rotated through a clinic that served undocumented immigrants who couldn't risk hospitals. She knew the basics. But this was different. This was a criminal bleeding out on her table because the law couldn't know he existed. Hold him down, she said. This is going to hurt. It took 2 hours. She worked while the man screamed, then passed out, then woke and screamed again. Raphael held him still. Victor monitored vitals. Lena appeared with more supplies when needed and disappeared again like a ghost. When Lena finally sutured the last layer closed, her hands were covered in blood and she was shaking. The man would live. Probably. If infection didn't set in. Raphael found her in the bathroom 20 minutes later, scrubbing her hands raw. You saved his life. I don't know that yet. You did everything you could. That's all anyone can ask. She looked at him in the mirror. In the ER, we have rules, ethics boards, oversight. Here, I just operated on a criminal without consent, without backup, without any of the safeguards that keep people alive. Welcome to medicine in the shadows. I don't know if I can do this. He turned her around to face him. Yes, you can. I watched you work. You didn't hesitate, didn't panic. You did what needed to be done because someone's life depended on it. That's who you are, Lena. That doesn't change because the circumstances aren't ideal. She wanted to believe him, wanted to think she was still the person who'd become a nurse to help people. But helping criminals felt different, felt complicit. What if he goes out and hurts someone else? What if I saved him so he could kill someone's daughter? Or what if he doesn't? Raphael interrupted. What if you saved someone who made mistakes but wants to do better? You don't get to know. None of us do. We make the choice in the moment and live with the consequences. The man survived. 3 days later, he walked out of the clinic under his own power. He didn't thank her, didn't even look at her, just left. Victor appeared at her shoulder. Don't expect gratitude. Most of them won't give it. Then why do we bother? Because someone has to, and you're good at it. That became her life. Training with Victor in the mornings, clinic work in the afternoons, evenings with Raphael, planning strategies and talking about the organization. Nights wrapped around each other, finding comfort in the darkness. She called her parents once a week, kept the conversation short and vague. Yes, she was safe. Yes, she was working. No, She couldn't tell them where. Her mother cried every time. Her father asked pointed questions she dodged. Eventually, they stopped pushing, accepted that their daughter had disappeared into something they couldn't understand. It hurt, but not as much as she'd expected. 2 months in, everything changed. Lena was in the clinic inventorying supplies when Raphael burst through the door. His face was tight with barely controlled rage. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that's going to require you to make a choice." He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. "Recognize him?" It was Dylan. Older looking, thinner, but definitely Dylan. Her stomach dropped. "What about him?" He resurfaced, started talking to people he shouldn't, telling stories about how he escaped the organization, how he outsmarted us, how he's planning to write a book about it. A book? Exposure like that could destroy everything we've built, bring law enforcement attention we can't afford, get people killed. Raphael's jaw clenched. He needs to be stopped. Stopped how? Permanently. The word hung between them like a blade. "You want to kill him," she said. "I want to eliminate a threat. There's a difference." "No, there isn't." Raphael pocketed his phone. "The organization wants him dead. Victor's already planning the operation. But I wanted to tell you first, because this involves you, and because—" He stopped, started again. "Because if you tell me not to do it, I won't." She stared at him. "You'd let him live? Let him expose everything? Get people killed?" "If that's what you want, yes." "Why?" "Because I'm trying to be better than what I was. And you make me want to be better." His voice went rough. "But I need you to understand what that choice costs. If Dylan lives, people die. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not directly. But his exposure will have consequences. So you need to decide. Do you save the man who destroyed your life, or do you let me handle this the way it needs to be handled?" Lena sat down. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Dylan. The man she'd loved. The man who'd betrayed her. The man who'd sold her and run away and now was threatening everything she'd built from the ashes of that betrayal. "When?" she asked. "Tomorrow night. He's staying at a motel in Newark. Alone. It would be quick. And if I say no, then I find another way. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'll find it." She looked at her hands, the same hands that had saved a stabbing victim 3 weeks ago. The same hands that had learned to fire a gun with deadly accuracy. The same hands that had held Dylan's once, believing he loved her. "I want to be there," she said. Raphael went still. "What?" "If this is happening, if you're going to kill him, I want to be there. I want to see it." "Lena, no. You said I'm part of this world now. You said I'm all in. Then let me be all in." She met his eyes. "I need to see who I've become. This isn't something you come back from. I crossed that line the moment I helped you recover his stolen money. The moment I started patching up criminals in an illegal clinic. The moment I fell in love with a man who kills people for a living." Her voice didn't shake. She was proud of that. "I need to see this through. I need to look him in the eye one last time and know that I'm choosing you, choosing this life, choosing to let him go." Raphael studied her face for a long time. "If you come, you follow my lead. You stay back. You don't intervene." "Okay. And if I think for 1 second that you're not ready, that this is going to break you, I'm pulling you out. Understood?" "Understood." He pulled her close and held her like he was afraid she'd disappear. "I don't want this for you. I know, but it's my choice to make." The next night, they drove to Newark. Victor was already there, watching the motel from a car across the street. It was the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions, perfect for someone trying to hide. Dylan was in room 14, second floor, corner room with only one exit. "He's alone," Victor reported. "Been inside for 3 hours. Hasn't come out." Raphael checked his gun, made sure it was loaded. Lena watched and tried not to think about what was coming. "Last chance to stay in the car," Raphael said. "I'm coming." They climbed the external stairs. The motel was quiet. Most rooms dark. In the distance, traffic hummed. Normal people living normal lives while they walked toward murder. Raphael knocked on his door. Maintenance! Shuffling inside. Then Dylan's voice, muffled. I didn't call for maintenance. Leak in the room below you. Need to check your bathroom. A pause. Then the chain rattled and the door opened. Dylan saw Raphael and tried to slam it closed. Raphael's foot was already in the gap. He pushed through and Dylan stumbled backward. Then Dylan saw Lena. His face went white. No, this isn't… Lena, you have to help me, please. Whatever they told you, it's not true. Shut up. Raphael's voice was flat, cold. He pulled out his gun. Dylan's eyes went wide. He backed up until he hit the wall. Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll delete everything. The book, the interviews, all of it. I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. We both know that's a lie. Raphael chambered around. The sound was obscenely loud in the small room. Dylan turned to Lena, tears streaming down his face. Lena, baby, please, tell him to stop. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up, but you're not a killer. You save people. That's who you are. And for a moment, just a moment, she almost believed him, almost let herself remember the man she'd thought he was, the one who'd held her and promised her a future. Then she remembered the bank account, the contract with her name on it, the way he'd looked her in the eye in Atlantic City and admitted he'd never planned to marry her, that she'd just been easy. You're right, she said. I'm not a killer. Dylan's face flooded with relief. But I'm not your savior either. She looked at Raphael. Do what needs to be done. Lena, no. Raphael raised the gun. Dylan started to scream, then Raphael lowered it. Actually, he said, I think she should do it. Lena's heart stopped. What? Raphael held out the gun. You want to be all in? You want to cross the line completely? Then you decide. You pull the trigger or you let him go. Your choice. Your consequences. Dylan was sobbing now. Please, please don't do this. I'm begging you. Lena took the gun. It was heavier than she remembered, or maybe she was just shaking worse. She looked at Dylan, really looked, saw him for what he was, a coward, a liar, a man who destroyed her life and felt sorry for himself about it, a man who would write his book and expose everyone and get people killed and probably still find a way to play the victim. You know what the worst part is? She said. I actually loved you. I worked double shifts to save money for our future. I believed you when you said we'd build something together. I gave you everything and you saw it as weakness. I didn't mean, yes, you did. You said it yourself. I was easy, convenient, a resource to be exploited. She raised the gun, her hand steady now. You taught me what I was worth to people like you, and you know what? I'm grateful, because now I know my worth, and it's not measured by how useful I am to cowards. Dylan fell to his knees. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry you can't talk your way out. Sorry that the consequences finally caught up. She looked at Raphael. But you're not sorry for what you did to me. You're just sorry it didn't work. She pointed the gun at Dylan's head. Time stretched. She could feel her heartbeat, feel Raphael's presence behind her, feel the weight of the choice in her hands. Then she lowered the gun. I can't, she said. Raphael took it from her gently. I know. He raised his gun toward Dylan, and for a second, Lena thought he would do it, would finish what she couldn't. Instead, he tucked the gun away. Get up. Dylan scrambled to his feet, confused and terrified. Here's what's going to happen, Raphael said. You're going to leave the country. Tonight. Victor has a passport waiting for you, a new identity, a ticket to somewhere far away. You're going to get on that plane and you're never going to come back. You're never going to write your book. You're never going to tell your story. And if I ever hear your name again, if I even suspect you violated this agreement, I won't send Lena. I'll come myself. And I won't give you the chance to beg. Yes, I'll do it. Thank you so much. Don't thank me. Thank her. Raphael gestured to Lena. She just saved your worthless life. Victor appeared in the doorway with a manila envelope. Car's waiting. Dylan took the envelope with shaking hands, looked at Lena one last time. I really am sorry. I don't care, she said, and meant it. They watched him leave, watched Victor escort him down the stairs and into a waiting car, watched the taillights disappear into the Newark night. When they were alone, Raphael turned to her. "Are you okay?" "I don't know." She sat on the bed. Her legs were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "I thought I could do it. When you handed me the gun, I thought I'd finally become someone who could. And now? Now I know I haven't, and I don't know if that makes me weak or if it makes me human." Raphael sat beside her. "It makes you someone who knows where her line is. That's not weakness, that's strength." "You were going to kill him if I couldn't?" "No, I wasn't." She looked at him. "You're lying. I was testing you, and you passed. You chose mercy when you could have chosen revenge. That's the person I fell in love with. Someone who knows that power doesn't have to mean destruction. But the organization, the threat, will be handled differently. Dylan's exile solves the immediate problem, and if he breaks the agreement, there are ways to handle it that don't require murder." He took her hand. "I've spent 20 years believing the only way to survive in this world was to be more ruthless than everyone else. But watching you, seeing you choose something different, made me realize I was wrong. There's another way. It's harder, it's more complicated, but it's possible." Lena leaned against him. "I was going to do it. For a second there, I was actually going to pull the trigger." "I know. Well, does that make me a bad person?" "It makes you someone who was pushed to her limit and found out where that limit was. The fact that you stopped, that you chose not to cross that line, that's what matters." They sat in that dingy motel room for a long time, not talking, just being present with each other while the weight of what almost happened settled over them. Finally, Raphael stood. "Come on, let's go home." Home. The penthouse that had been a prison, then a shelter, now something else entirely. They drove back in silence. When they got there, Elena was waiting. "Mr. Morrison?" she asked. "Gone," Raphael said. "Permanently relocated. He won't be a problem." Elena looked at Lena, saw something in her face. "I'll make tea." Lena went to her room, except it wasn't really her room anymore. Most of her things had migrated to Raphael's room over the past 2 months. This space had become more of a storage area than living quarters. She looked around and realized she'd been holding on to it as an escape route, a way back to who she used to be. But that person didn't exist anymore. That nurse with the normal life and the terrible boyfriend had died the night she got in Raphael's car. Someone new had been born in her place. She packed up the last of her belongings and moved them permanently into Raphael's room. When he found her later, he didn't say anything, just helped her hang her clothes next to his. "No more halfway," she said. "No more halfway," he agreed. The next morning, Lena called her parents. Had the conversation she'd been avoiding. "I'm not coming back," she told them. "I know that's hard to hear. I know you want me to come home and explain and go back to being the daughter you knew, but I can't. That life is over." Her mother cried. Her father demanded answers. Lena gave them what she could. She'd left Dylan. She was safe. She was building something new. She couldn't tell them what or where or with whom. "Are you happy?" her father finally asked. She thought about it, about Raphael and Victor and Elena, about the clinic and the training and the life she'd chosen, about the gun in her hand and the moment she'd chosen mercy over revenge. "Yes," she said. "I think I am." "Then that's enough." Her father's voice was rough with emotion. "You call us every week. Let us know you're alive. That's all we ask." "I can do that." The call ended. Another bridge burned, but this one felt different, not severed, just distant. Raphael found her on the balcony an hour later. The city spread out below them, millions of people living lives she'd never understand. And somewhere among them, Dylan was boarding a plane to a new life. A second chance he didn't deserve but got anyway. "Any regrets?" Raphael asked. "About letting him live?" "No." "About this life?" "Sometimes." "About you?" She turned to face him. "Never." He kissed her, slow and deep. When they pulled apart, he kept his forehead pressed to hers. "I have something for you," he said. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a key. "To the penthouse?" she asked. "To the building, full access. You're not a guest anymore, Lena. You're home." She took the key and felt the weight of it. Not just metal, but symbolism, commitment, a future she was choosing instead of having chosen for her. "What comes next?" she asked. "Whatever we want. The organization is stable. Dimitri's been quiet. The medical clinic is growing. We're building something good here, something that doesn't require us to destroy ourselves to maintain." "Is it enough?" "I don't know. Ask me in a year." She smiled. "I'll hold you to that." They stood on that balcony and watched the sun rise over the city. Two broken people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and somehow built something that felt like hope. Lena thought about the woman she'd been. The ER nurse who'd survived by making herself useful, who'd loved a man who saw her as convenient, who'd worked herself to exhaustion trying to build a future that was never real. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who'd faced the worst parts of herself and chosen who to become instead of letting circumstances decide. She'd held a gun and chosen mercy. She'd joined criminals and found purpose. She'd fallen in love with a dangerous man and discovered that danger wasn't the same as evil. Most importantly, she'd learned her worth. And it wasn't measured by how useful she was, or how much she could endure, or how well she could survive being used. Her worth was her choice. Her power was her decision. Her life was hers to claim. Victor appeared in the doorway. "Training in 30 minutes. "I'll be there," Lena said. When he left, Raphael pulled her close. "You don't have to keep training. You've proven yourself." "I know, but I want to. I want to be ready for whatever comes next." "What do you think comes next?" She looked out at the city, at all those lives being lived in ignorance of the shadows beneath. "I think we keep building. Keep proving there's another way to do this. Keep saving the people we can and making peace with the ones we can't." "That's a good answer. I learned from the best." They went inside together. Raphael to his office and his endless phone calls. Lena to the gym where Victor was waiting with new techniques and no mercy. She was tired, bruised, changed in ways she was still discovering. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. She'd walked into darkness and found light. She'd faced the worst in herself and chosen better. She'd held power over life and death and learned that the real power was in choosing not to use it. Some people would call her a criminal now, an accomplice, someone who'd lost her way. But Lena knew the truth. She hadn't lost anything. She'd found herself, found her strength, found her line, and her purpose, and her worth. And she'd found love in the most unlikely place, with a man who'd saved her by giving her the choice to save herself. That was worth more than any normal life could have given her. That was worth everything. So she trained, she healed. She built a life in the shadows alongside someone who understood what it meant to be broken and to choose wholeness anyway. And when people asked if she had regrets, and they would, eventually, she'd tell them the truth. She regretted Dylan, regretted the wasted years, regretted not seeing the truth sooner. But she didn't regret the wrong number text. Didn't regret getting in Raphael's car. Didn't regret choosing this impossible, complicated, dangerous life. Because this life was hers, truly hers. In a way nothing had ever been before. And that made all the difference.